it and you're like, it loses the excitement a little bit of a regular football game. That's why Championship Sunday will always be superior, because there is excitement, there is energy in the crowd, and there's no energy at the Super Bowl.
No.
Now, as a Jet fan, I can't understand any of this stuff.
Well, Kev, you witnessed the first Super Bowl. I did not.
I did. I was 3 days old when the Jets won the only Super Bowl. Remember, we are perfect in the Super Bowl.
We are undefeated in Super Bowl play, as I tell everyone I meet. We just don't like to lose. We don't like to lose in the big game, so we just wait it out. What does this tell you about, though, the Jets' chances and every other team, that a young team can find their way and make it to the Super Bowl? A team without much of an offensive line at all, which is stunning, by the way.
They made the Jet line look decent.
The Jets beat the Bengals. Another reason why I like the Rams. Just being honest. I'd be lying to say I didn't. Jets beat them. That says enough to me about the Bengals. But
we beat the 1 seed in the AFC, and we beat the Super Bowl runner-ups.
What more can you say? We lost everybody else by double digits. Crazy. So, Gino, any more racist things coming from your organization in Washington?
I hope not. We are the Commanders. That's all I have to say.
You are the Commanders. There's no doubt about it. So I guess now everybody just looks forward to the draft. It's early. There's no combines yet. But we all think about all the holes that our teams have. Hope that we have cap space for free agency, able to keep our good free agents, and get better in the draft. As Jet fans, again, we have 2 of the top 10 picks. Bill's not on with us this week in Beijing, but he will have 2 top 10 picks from the Giants. Your Washington team, Gino, you want a quarterback? What are you looking at?
Yeah, I think they're going to have to take a quarterback in the first round. Taylor Heineke is not the answer, in my opinion, and I think what they're going to need to do is go get one of these guys and hope that the guy they take is the right guy at this point. So
it's really all you can do. And Kev, anything specific you want with the Jets?
First pick, I mean, you'd love to see. To me, I'd love to see Hamilton. I think he's a special player back there. I know you don't draft safeties that high, but boy, he looks like he's a real deal.
I like him too.
And the second pick, I'd really like to trade down a little bit. You talk about the quarterbacks. It's not a great quarterback draft, but you take a look behind the Jets, Gino's team, Washington. I think you look 15 and 16, you got Philly. Are they all in on Jalen Hurts? Probably for now, but you never know. By the time you get that to 18, the Saints, 20, the Steelers. If you start, if somebody really falls in love with Pickett or something like that, and they want to move up to 10, where you're still picking the top 20, I'd be more than happy to get a first rounder next year and a couple extra picks this year.
I mean, listen, it's one of those things that makes sense. I mean, Denver's not sold on Drew Lock being their answer going forward. I mean, listen, there's going to be, Garoppolo's going to end up somewhere, right? He'll be starting somewhere. Don't know exactly where. I doubt it won't be San Francisco, from what I understand.
He'll finally live his dream of replacing Tom Brady.
You know what? Aaron Rodgers is not dead to replace Tom Brady. That's all I'm going to say. I don't know if it's something he wants to be right behind Tom, but it's a team that's kind of built already a little bit. You get Godwin back from injury. You have Michael Evans. Mike Evans is a hell of a player. You got the running back in Fournette. You got a great O-line. You don't have to play in 4-degree weather. And you got a defense that can play for the most part. I can see Aaron saying, hey, I'll go there. Somebody else go up to Green Bay and freeze with LaFleur. And then we won't have to hear about how genius LaFleur is because he'll just be mediocre coach like everybody else with less talent. Nothing against LaFleur. I'm just saying these coaches are usually only as good as the talent around them. So it's only so much you can do.
We prefer the other LaFleur be a better coach.
Yeah, I hope so. No, I hope so. So Kev, you've been covering the Olympics a lot this year. You've been watching it. You know curling inside and out.
Oh, I love curling.
What has been standing out to you Olympic-wise this year?
Two things. One, this Russian skating, this 15-year-old that got the drug test positive back in December. And while they're trying to figure things out between the IOC and the Skating Federation, she's allowed to skate. And what they're doing is if she finishes in the top 3, they're going to hold up the medal ceremony until they figure everything out. And then maybe she can get her medal then if they feel like she's cleared everything.
The Russians are not known to be cheaters in the Olympics. This is a rarefied air for the Russians, no, Kev?
It never happens. I mean,
they had to change their name because of it. But anyway,
the fact that you can't skate for Russia, you're the ROC.
Exactly. That pretty much tells you everything you need to know. Also, Beijing, before you get to your next point, Kev, you got to love it when the Winter Olympics are suspended for snow. And they had a few events suspended today because everything they have in Beijing is fake. So when real snow actually hit, they didn't know how to react. I'll leave it there. Kev, back to you.
I personally like the ski jump area right by what looked like Springfield in The Simpsons, the nuclear reactor looking thing back there.
That's where they diagrammed it off of.
Yeah, I think downtown Newark is trying to try for the 2032 Winter Olympics or whenever the next one is. That's up for bid.
It's getting to be. Listen, color me old fashioned. Give me some European city I've never heard of. Put them up in the Alps. Let them freaking play. Let them do the winter sports in the areas where the winter sports should be. I'm sorry. Shouldn't just be in Beijing all the time.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough, especially, of course you want to root for USA, but with the time difference, it's 13 hours ahead.
Mm-hmm.
So either if you want to stay up ultra late or you're waking up ultra early, but then everybody's got to get to work. And you can't catch anything live. And nowadays, everything you read is on the internet. It's not like I know you were talking about a couple weeks ago getting the scores from the 1980 Team USA Russia game.
976-1313.
That game was on tape delay, but you could do it then because nobody knew what the result was unless you're Darren.
Well, I couldn't stop myself as an 8-year-old. I don't know why. I pestered her every 5 minutes to make those phone calls. But yeah, no, you're right. It's a very different way to watch the Olympics now. Everything comes across your phone. You find out who won a medal, all this other stuff without even if you're not trying, you find out.
Yeah, luckily, we're in the same boat. We still got some younger kids, so sometimes you don't get the TV. Some of the Olympic stuff, in prime time by 10 o'clock or so, they do have some of the live events, which is tomorrow in Beijing. I've seen some of the skiing. That's always fun to watch. That feels like Winter Olympics.
Yep.
Kind of like the way that somebody like Michaela Schifrin has come back, and at least she's skiing and competing. She didn't get down. She's giving it a shot, and she's trying her best. And I like the fact that she didn't quit.
No, I agree with you because she could have after the way it started.
I mean, her 2 best events, she skied out right away.
Yep.
And the other events she's skiing are not her best. She knows they're not her best events, but she's giving it a shot, and that's what you got to do.
Yeah, I thought she was going to be a lock to break the medal thing in the beginning. You heard me when we were on with Tim Loves the Olympics. And, I thought, well, she's been great all season and all last year too. And then, not that I watch every single week skiing. I'd be lying to you people if I said that. But you do see the updates. You do check it out a little bit. And you're like, wow, she's doing really well. And then all of a sudden you realize, she just struggled in her first 2 events. Gino, the hockey. They've been somewhat impressive, the kids so far.
I don't really know, to be honest with you. I really haven't watched.
They won their pod. They won Group A.
You know what?
Undefeated, beat Canada.
I know this is going to be an unpopular opinion with you and probably Mr. Kev, but I feel like the Olympics is just overstayed its welcome. I don't know. I honestly. I become less and less interested every 4 years that it takes place. I feel like part of what Kevin just brought up with the internet, it's part of the reason that it kills it. I remember years ago watching it on TV, and everybody was watching it, and it was a big deal. And maybe it's because we have 800 channels and 400 streaming options, and there's 800 things to watch now. But less and less. I've become very less interested than I used to be in the Olympics. So,
You know what's funny though, and I understand what you're saying, but I admire these guys so much. The guy that's in curling has a regular job. And the guy that's in the bobsled or the woman in the bobsled has a job and is a mom and coming back from injuries, and they get no fanfare and they get no money, and they do it because they love competing in sport. And that's the kind of the cool thing about it. The Winter Olympics always stood out to me in a certain way because these are all sports I can't even fathom doing. We've all swam. We're not really good at it, but we can all swim. And we've all run. We're not really fast, but we can run. But how many of the people do you know that have done a luge run? How many people do you know that have sat in a bobsled? How many people do you know would even try to ski jump besides your brother David? Nobody would really do these things. I really can't get into the X game things. I got to be honest. I have a hard time with it. It's never really been my thing as much. Maybe because I'm old. I don't know. I don't love like the mogul stuff. And, listen, I was hoping Shaun White got a medal because he's been around since, forever, basically. But I do love the old school sports, the speed skating. I get into all that stuff. I do. It's been harder this year than usual for me, though.
I put it on a couple of times, and I agree. It's the ski jumping and the luge and the bobsled. And I just feel like I watch one run down the hill and I'm done. And
I get it.
I'm flipping the channel. I'm watching a college basketball game, which is really big with us right now. I'm watching a couple other things. But yeah, it just feels like for me, I've become much less interested in the Olympics than I used to. So
listen, I completely get it, to be honest with you. I get why. Kev, you were going to say something. I'm sorry.
Between NBC, USA, and CNBC, they seem to be the stations covering a lot. I don't get Peacock. I'm not streaming. I'm not paying that money. And you want to flip around, and depending on what sport is on, you go, okay, do we have an American up near the top? Do I want to watch this or not? And if it's not an American up there, it's like, yep, next.
And that's the thing. I mean, we're not dominant in the Winter Olympics. We never have been. This is,
no.
I mean. Again, we talked about a couple of weeks ago with Eric Heiden and the Mayer brothers and I didn't remember Ty Babylonian and Randy Gardner nearly as much as Tim loves the Olympics did, but it was the hockey team, of course, and all these great things. They all Bonnie Blair a few years later, Dan Jansen falling down and then getting back up 4 years later. These were fun things and pretty cool, to kind of catch. And when it's not in your time zone, it really does lose something. The summer has the women's, beach volleyball, which is an outstanding sport to watch as a spectator. You don't really have that necessarily here in the Winter Olympics, but nonetheless, I get what you're saying, G. It's when the Americans are not competitive in certain sports, it becomes really hard to watch it. I agree wholeheartedly. So baseball. Not a lot of movement, guys. We have our fantasy draft coming up. We need it to happen.
We talked about baseball a couple weeks ago when I was on, and we basically said the same thing 3 weeks ago, which is there is just not a lot of movement, and it's starting to look more and more like this season is going to get delayed, and We're getting to that point where there's not going to be a way to get around the season getting delayed. It's just going to be how long does it get delayed?
Well, the Manfred said he didn't think it was going to last week. Who knows? But here's my thing: is that I don't think baseball can afford, from a popularity standpoint, to delay. I think baseball
they could, I know it's usually end of March, beginning of April. If they get out to April 15th, maybe that's okay because it still gets you through March Madness. It gets you through the Masters weekend. But after that, that's when you have that hole in the calendar. And unless you're big into NBA playoffs, it just doesn't. There's a gap there for the sports.
I just think that because baseball's excitement is really opening day, opening weekend, and stuff like that. If your team gets off to a good start, it stays a little longer. Then it kind of goes Memorial Day. Okay, then you start getting back into baseball around Memorial Day. I'm not saying that you don't follow it April and May, but it becomes a box score sport. You catch a team when you can. And if you miss that open weekend type of excitement that fans look forward to. There are fans that go to every opening day every year.